Alright. Had a bit of a problem recording. Tried to get the camera as best situated as I could. Had a very long day. Things in the forest took a lot longer than usual. So right now this is the discussion on the Lonesome Child. I'm just going to go over some basics. Like the core tenets are, the story is almost always told with a boy being the victim. The girl can be told, but it's very rare. It depends on the storyteller, and it usually seems that habit of telling the girl is passed down through generations, and it's still something even they don't do all that often. And each of these stories is meant to pass on a lesson, and this one is very clear. Jakuls are trying to teach something, and they don't really have access to schools the way we do, so they have to adapt themselves and their methods to teach people in the field and have an adaptive framework for shaping minds in multiple different ways. Like, no one child, you're not going to teach every child if you're trying to focus on one method of teaching. It's just never going to happen. And since they have to rely on everyone to pull their own weight and a little bit more because of the harshness of their environment, then they have to be able to teach everyone, even at different ranges. Human teaching is sort of like you go in a spot, you sit in that spot, you're arranged with other people, and you're all supposed to be in this medium sort of box. And as long as you fit somewhere in that box, that's fine. In the Jackal world, their life, they need people to constantly be working and figuring themselves out and constantly applying themselves and getting better. And so they're constantly teaching themselves and each other. And that goes both ways. A lot of these, you notice that the story was not very long, and it had some, things you wouldn't find in a normal horror story. And that's because that leaves room for the teacher to then ask the students, the listeners, what they thought of it, and what different things they present then changes the way the teacher can look at them. It's sort of like answers on a test, but it's much more personalized to that person. Alright, and another thing is that the story begins with action. The boy is running. He is running. He's doing that action. He's taken the choice to fail at learning and is moving away from the point where he could learn. And this is very important because it means, his failure is coming because of his choices. He's made this occur. And most of the stories start with, some form of doing something. The most common being sharpening a blade of some sort. Maybe 70% of the stories begin with someone sharpening a blade, either a monster or a potential predator or the main character themselves. But it's always about some sort of action. And then all the information is kept very brief. This is just something that can be remembered and used on the fly around a campfire to keep people entertained and then form their minds a little bit. It's not meant to be more than that. So he gets lost through his own failure and his failure to face himself and his flaws. And worse, when he's confronted by a potential threat, he lies about it, and then he believes in his own lie. And this is the crux of the story. He's so arrogant that he believes this lie that he tells himself, and it actually leads to his downfall. And this kind of belief, this faith in the self or what you already know to be true is such a massive character flaw that you can't have it in the deep well. You cannot persist there. That place will destroy you because of this. So this is a very important story to tell. You can't be this way there. It will kill you. And what they're trying to get across is be introspective. Look into yourself and know what problems you have and what your strengths are. Know yourself and understand what is good and bad about you. Because, like, you know, if he had known what to respond with his teachers, or even given some sort of reaction without, you know, crying and running off into the wilderness, which is not a good idea if you're a regular human child on Earth, and in the deep well it is death. Do not fucking go there alone as a child. It will kill you. Now, we have the pair of monsters themselves, the Illic, which is the water creature, and the Low One, which you've heard me reference before. You don't want to be captured by a Low One. They won't just kill you. Other stuff will happen. None of it good. And this is the part where you judge the mind of the child, because the Illic could be just an Illic, but in my personal opinion, the Illic represents the danger of not being aware of yourself and your own weakness, while the Low One represents your ignorance of your surroundings. But in the Jackal sense, the way they think, the water creature could be knowledge itself. And while the knowledge itself is dangerous, as the water creature comes off, you know, very imposing sort of being, not exploring or reviewing that information is much more life-threatening than just seeing it and being afraid. And in their reference, the Low One would be the threat that you could have known about, but you chose not to because you were too busy believing in yourself without questioning yourself. Now, these stories are open to interpretation, and I'd love to hear what you think of them, you know, in the comments down below. Please leave any questions or points that you have down there, and look before you comment if there's a bunch, you know. I don't make it a habit of answering the same questions multiple times, and good talk. I've got other stuff to do, as always, and I'm Lothran, and I'd like to ask each and every one of you to try and stay safe out there.